My name's Adil.
And I'm the South African legend, Rowan.
Welcome back to the channel. What an introduction. But today's video is all about this, the Ford Ranger Wildtrak.
Hold on a minute, guys. This car already has a sound system in the vehicle, so let's work out what on earth is going on. This has got Horningsea Legend tweeters, Horningsea Legend mid basses, Horningsea Pro rears, a shallow mounted Hertz 10-inch sub, Audison Forza 8-channel amplifier and the M version, so the higher performance 8-channel, and then a Forza 1D as well, and then that's it. So that is some incredible gear. However, we have some problems, and why on earth is it with us? Let's find out.
So as I've got this part in my hand, probably best to start with this. This bit of trim has actually been falling off the vehicle. So as the client picked up the vehicle a couple of days later or so, this fell off.
Is they actually cut into the hole where the clip's supposed to be going into?
Oh yeah.
Which could be a reason why that front keeps falling off.
Yeah, possibly. But I mean, the housing itself is also kind of rattling. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that just might not be tight or secured properly behind there.
Angling also of these tweeters, it's basically, it looks like it's playing, to the steering.
Kind of steering wheel, yeah.
So at this stage in the project, we're not fully aware of the full story behind this build. However, we can only base it on what the client has told us so far.
The biggest issues that he found was towards the amplification and the sub. So the sub, to begin with, what he's mentioned to us, which we'll show you when we strip it down and stuff, is the sub itself. As he was driving home, he felt lots of things bouncing around in the vehicle. He turned the music off and was listening, and he heard all these things rattling and bouncing around basically. So what he did is he heard it coming from the back, so he lifted up the back seat, and the sub was not bolted down or secured. It was into the little cavity that they've got on these Rangers, and he lifted the entire sub up in his hand, so it wasn't secured at all. Then he looked at the amplifier that's underneath on the other side. That was held on by two fastening clips at the front, and then the amp, basically two fastening clips. Amp was sat here, and the amp was doing this basically upwards and downwards, which is really, really dangerous, not only for the product but also because you got positive and negative very close to each other going into that amplifier. That's live. You're driving, that's live. Bouncing around positive and negative in driving is not a fun test. Don't do that. That's not a fun thing to try.
A client shouldn't be needing to intervene on a system, especially on a system with this level of gear and after paying for a professional install.
Which is really sensible, actually. He actually secured down some of the items just with some Velcro. He Velcroed down the sub, he Velcroed down the amps, he cable tied in the engine bay, and then he came to see me because it's about safety. It was very sensible of him to do that. Very sensible, because that could have caused a fire.
All we've done so far with the vehicle is an inspection and then also had a brief from our client, and this is where we are.
One thing I've picked up is that I see the battery is quite low, and actually on our battery tester it shows that we need to replace the battery. A battery is a very, very important part in a sound system. That is basically the heart of the sound.
The foundation, yeah.
The foundation, yeah. And if you going around with a battery that weak, it can cause a lot of problems. It can damage your amplification, and your electrics in the vehicle. So,
and what percentage was that on?
So this battery was on 4%.
4% health. Running a battery on 4% is not a good thing. It's starting, it's running. The client's never experienced a problem, but he's going to, right?
Yeah.
It's a problem waiting to happen. And the other thing with this is this install, which is the surprising bit after just hearing that, because this install wasn't done too long ago.
So already we're coming across a couple of issues, ones that the clients have shown us as well as on our very brief inspection that we've done so far. I wonder what else we're going to find in today's install and today's video. So let's go through and sit in the car and listen to it and see how it sounds.
quite a lot of depth from those mid basses.
Yeah.
Interesting to see what adapters they've used on the mid basses.
Oh yeah.
It's very lost at the top end though.
Quite bassy also.
Yeah.
Not too much bass.
Yeah.
You know, that balance is not there.
And the volume's pretty good.
Yeah.
No problem with that. That's what I'm saying, it's good gear.
Yeah. You can hear there's quality but not
Yeah.
bringing the full potential out of them.
I mean, it sounds a lot better than stock,
Oh yeah.
still. But it's not what the system should sound like.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe that. Yeah, the depth is in the wrong places, right?
Yeah.
That might just be a tuning thing. That might just be tuning.
So we've got a couple of issues, obviously we've highlighted to you, but it's now time to get this car into the workshop. Rowan is going to work his absolute magic on this one. Klein wants it all removed and restarted afresh, knowing exactly how it's done and knowing it's done properly. So let's jump into the rest of today's video.
So we have our vehicle in our workshop and in our bay. We've already inspected our front, we've tested our battery. We see that the battery is quite bad. So now what we'll be doing is we'll be inspecting our exterior, the sides and the rear. And then after that we will jump to inside the car and inspect the interior. And then a little bit later we will have a look at the rest of our speakers, our subwoofer, you know, just make sure everything is okay there, just to give you guys a look on how that is all been you know, placed in and installed. And then we will also look at the tuning on our laptop. We will see, you know, what kind of setup is running at the moment, and then we'll be able to see and pinpoint out any issues if there are. So yeah, let's get started with our inspection. So our exterior and interior inspection is now done. We inspect things like the door panels, our side steps, we inspect our seat, paintwork. Once all of these things are inspected, they go into a special folder for us to look at and for the customer to look at, you know, and just basically to protect ourselves, you know. So now that that is done, what we'll be doing is I'll be grabbing our laptop, I'll get that plugged in, and then we will start looking at tuning of this system. So yeah, let's get into that. Okay, so we have our app open now, our bid drive. The first thing that I've noticed is that the distance and the delay has not been set. So what we normally do is we put our microphone inside the car and we do a special setup of the microphone listening to the distance of each speaker and automatically filling that in for us. That helps a lot with performance of the speakers too. And then another thing I've noticed in the input equalizer, you know, it's okay, but it's not, you know, it's not to where I would actually like it or prefer to be. So going from 1000 hertz going up, you know, it's nice, it's quite clean, but coming from 1000 down, there's quite a little bit of a dip. It's not quite clean down there. So what we'll be doing is in that dip, we will just be uplifting that signal. And you know, the better your signal is going in, the better the performance coming out of your speaker. So at the end of our installation, we will go back to our tuning and then we will do our fine tuning, you know, lifting those gains, bring it down here and there, and yeah, just try and get the best performance out of these speakers. So we are done with this for now. We will start with our strip work. We will start removing our door panels, taking our seats out, and as I go along I will explain to you of the products, where it is, how it's situated, and yeah, just give you a little bit of feedback on that. So I've just removed our tweeter panel, and the first thing I've noticed is the way the connection was made. With these type of connections, it doesn't make it easy for you to take the tweeter panel off and on, or even remove the tweeter. So cutting this wire will have to continue to happen over and over, and basically at the end of the day there's not going to be any wire left. So in my opinion, I think what the best thing to do is here is put on our XT30 adapters. They look something like this. So it's a positive and negative that we can, you know, plug in and out, and it makes it so much more convenient whenever we want to take this tweeter panel off. Another thing I've noticed is just the type of finish, you know. It doesn't look neat at all. You can still see super glue marks. They've actually cut a lot into the actual holdings where your front should be clipped on, and that's the reason why it keeps falling off. So what I'll do is I'll take our tweeter out, I'll give it a nice clean up, and then we will actually be building our own custom tweeter pod on top of this, and in that way we can direct the tweeter straight at the customer and gives him a much better listening experience. I've noticed also on the side the tweeter didn't have a proper connection onto it. On the special speaker adapters, they've put a plug on, which is good, but to take this speaker out I would still have to cut this wire because the wire can't go through the hole itself. So what I'll be doing is we will be doing our own speaker adapters, and we'll actually make provision for this XT60 plug to sit into. So whenever we want to remove the speaker, we can just take the speaker off without the adapter. You know, easy plug in, plug out. Another thing also is you can see bare wires, bare speaker wires. What we normally like to do is we tape everything up with the original taping of the car itself. So I'll be taping all of this up, running it with the original loom. We'll be taking off the speaker adapter, we'll put our own on, and then another thing we'll also add is our water guard, just to protect the speaker from water at the back. It protects it from corrosion, and the front of the water guard just helps seal off with the front door panel and just gives that sound coming nicely through the grille. So yeah, let me get the speaker out, let me get this wiring out and start tackling it. So I removed the speaker, and this is what I was talking about. When you don't have a water guard in place, the speaker gets wet, and when the speaker gets wet, you shorten the lifespan of the speaker. You will start picking up corrosion. Even the coils can get damaged if water ever needs to get in there. I just want to show you also, you know, how wet it gets inside the door, and as you can see, my glove is full of water. So it's very important to have your water guard in place, and it just protects the speaker and extends its lifespan. So when our speakers are ready to go back in, we will put our water guard in place. So after removing our passenger seat, we saw where the 1 amp is located, and it's a good spot, you know, under the seat, that's away from water, you know, things like that. But one thing I did notice is the mounting of this amp. This amp is actually only mounted straight into the carpet, which causes a lot of movement, a lot of sound, vibrating sounds, which can cause, you know, your ear to pick up that sound instead of the actual sounding experience of your speakers. So what we will do is we will just build a nice board, get it mounted properly. And another thing also is the wiring. We will just neaten up the wiring a bit more. I see there is tape and things like that on the wires, which is perfectly fine. But just placement of the wires and just giving it a little bit more of a cleaner look. So yeah, we will change that. We will get it mounted properly. Let's head to the back and then see what's happening by the other amp. So we've stripped out the rear of our vehicle, and over here we have our amp and sub. Once again, nothing wrong with the location of where they are placed. But however, the way this amp is mounted, I mean, I can just lift it up, you know, and that's not secure at all. So when it comes to driving the vehicle again, you will get, you know, rattling. Again, you can cause a fire hazard. So things like this must be bolted down, must be secure at all times. What I've noticed over here also is I see they have used the seatbelt bolt to give the amp earth. Nothing wrong with the location, but what I did notice is that the earth has just been bolted on top of the paint, which doesn't give 100% earth connection, you know. And amplifiers, you know, they need 100% good clean connections to the metalwork of the vehicle. I need to swing over to the other side of the vehicle to talk about the sub. So we are over here by our subwoofer. Like I said, great location for it. But if you look at this, it's not bolted down at all. When it's not bolted down, it will cause a lot of vibration, and it will actually give off like a very floppy around bass, which is not good to the ear. So definitely you need to bolt things like this down and keep it as secure as possible. Another thing I've noticed is I see that it has been covered, which is great, but you know, there's little pieces, you know, not 100%, you know, glued down properly. I would have put, you know, a proper negative positive plug onto this just to make it easily removable and to put back. And then over here I've noticed also that there are Velcro pieces on the sub, and the customer basically put this on, you know, just to get rid of some of that rattling noises. So we will definitely get all of this redone. We will definitely bolt it down, get it secure as possible. And then what we'll also do is we need to check the volume of the enclosure to make sure it's the precise volume for this sub, so that this sub can perform at its very best. So for now, we will start stripping out our amplifier, our sub. We will get our carpeting out, check all of our soundproofing, get our center console out, and then yeah, I will meet you guys again later. So we are here by our sub, you know, enclosure, and what we've picked up also is that we don't have enough volume for the sub to actually perform, you know, at its full potential. So what I'll be doing is I'll be cutting a bit away and just creating, you know, more space and initially more volume for the sub to play in. So we got our sheets all set up. We have our goggles, you know, safety first, and yeah, let's start getting to the grind. So all our cutting is now complete. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to give it a nice clean up, and then after that we'll get into our soundproofing. So our soundproofing is all complete on this vehicle. So now we're going to focus on our box build. So as you saw, the reason why I cut this plate out is just to get that more volume for our subwoofer. So now we will be getting 17 liters, the exact specifications for the sub. So we'll start by getting this all taped up, and then we will start building with our wood, and then we will add also a bit of fiberglassing into that. So yeah, let's get cracking on that. So our box is complete, it's built, and all we have to do now is get it sprayed and get it covered. We've got a box to the volume of 17 liters, which is the exact spec for the sub. The previous box was about 13 to 14 liters, so we'll get much better performance out of our subwoofer. So before we get it sprayed and covered, we will start on our amp racks for our 3 amps, and then after that we will focus on our pods for our mid-ranges and tweeters. So let's get started with that. So what we'll be focusing on now is our A-pillars. What we've noticed is that there was no mid-range in the front stage of this vehicle. So what we'll be doing is we'll be creating our custom mold into our A-pillars. So we've printed our 3D adapters. So what I'll be doing is I'll be cutting a hole into this, getting this mounted in there, and then once that is mounted, we will do our fiberglassing. We'll get a nice mold and shape, and then we will cover it, and then once it's covered, our 3-inch mid-range will go into that place. So let's get started on that. So as you can see, all our custom work is now complete on the vehicle. Just to show you what we've done with the tweeter, we've created our own housing for the tweeter, and what we've done also is we've centralized it to the center of the car, just to get that best sound experience out of your speakers. So another thing what we've also added is what the vehicle didn't have is we've created a housing for the DRC controller. And what this will be doing is it will just give that fine tuning of mid bass or bass or treble, on demand. So this will take complete control of your sound system. So that is all complete now. So what we'll be doing is we'll be getting all of our panels sprayed, the inside all sprayed black. And then after that, we'll get it covered. So let's get these boys sprayed. So our installation is officially complete on this vehicle. Our A-pillars are done, our tweeter molds are done, As you saw on the right-hand side, that tweeter, that tweeter holding was quite loose. We managed to secure that, get in proper clips. That thing is not falling out at all. So that is done. Our sub is installed, our sub is done, and now it's time to hand over to Adil.
So that is the install complete. Obviously, you've seen Rowan go through the entire install and seen some of the horrific bits and pieces that you've seen on the install that got done originally, where actually safety was actually compromised to get a car out the door. And this is why choosing your installer is so important, because when you are having an install done, these sorts of things can kill people. Okay, guys, it is that serious. These things can cause fires. Electrical fires are caused by poor installs, where you've got amplifiers literally bouncing around underneath a seat, when you've got a sub bouncing around underneath a seat. It is not correct. Okay, guys, there wasn't too many issues with the system in terms of safety, but there were a few, and that is really serious. Okay, guys, so let's go through the vehicle. Okay, so originally the system didn't have a mid-range in it, and it only had 2 amplifiers. So it had a sub, rear speakers, which are a coaxial, and then a 2-way front end. So what our client, while we were stripping it all back and redoing the install, what our client wanted to add was a mid-range as well as another amplifier. So we opted for another order from Forza, 4-channel amplifiers, so 3 amplifiers now in total, and then we've added in the mid-ranges and basically taken all the install out and reinstalled it back into the vehicle. What we've got underneath that seat on the passenger side is the new amplifier. So they've got an amplifier underneath there that is obviously all correctly bolted down. You've got the 10-inch sub box, which actually, as you saw earlier in today's video, was made originally with the wrong volume for that sub. So that sub, there was a potential of damaging that product over time, and also not getting the correct sub output and bass output from that product. We have now modified that. We have made that the correct volume, and it's also bolted down and secure, unlike the original one, and that is underneath the passenger seat. So that is the shallow mounted Hertz 10-inch sub. So that is in there. We've actually reused a lot of the sound deadening work. So there was actually quite a bit of dynamat work, sound deadening work that was done on the vehicle, in the doors, the rear area. The floor wasn't done, which is what we've covered. And then we've gone round and corrected a couple of things. So things like on this door card, there was quite a lot of resonance coming from here. Probably not too noticeable when driving, but when you're knocking on that door, you very much hear that resonance. So that's all been corrected. We've cloth taped all the clips across the vehicle and tightened all the screws that we've come across the entire vehicle. So nuts and bolts are all tightened, and everything is now secure and bolted down. One other thing that we've done, obviously probably the biggest visual difference that we've got here, is the relocation. So because the original tweeters, the Hertz Legend tweeters were mounted into the original panels where the original tweeter sits on top of that door card, what it was broken and obliterated basically, and it kept falling out on our client. The grill just kept falling out every time he was driving. So even when the car turned up, as you saw earlier in today's video, that panel was just in my hand and loose. So what our client wanted to do was go for something a little bit different, a little bit more unique, and add that mid-range in. So this car doesn't have a mid-range location. So what we've done is built a custom A-pillar which houses the Hertz Legend 3-inch mid-range. We've got the grill on there to cover that. And then we've actually cleaned up the Hertz Legend because there was a load of glue around that. Cleaned them up, which should come out really nice. And then we've got the pods for the Hertz Legend tweeter, so they're looking really smart. Obviously when it's separate and when it's together, it still looks really smart, but when that door card is closed and you see across the vehicle, they look incredibly smart. These sorts of systems are all designed around a conversation around what our client's expectation is and what they want to achieve and how they want it to look in the vehicle, and creating that kind of OEM blend. This is a little bit more different to kind of a full OEM plus design. However, it's exactly what our client wanted, and we have delivered exactly that. These look absolutely incredible. We've got the mid-bass driver in here with the 3D printed adapter. Again, sound deadening work. We've gone through and tightened a lot of the things that were here. We found, I don't know how many missing bolts and clips across the entire vehicle when we came across it. That could have been prior to the original install, we don't know, but
as far as we're aware, it was areas where it would have been to have this install carried out, and there was so many missing screws, bolts. Even the radio itself wasn't secured down correctly, and it was a mess behind there. But that is all being corrected, and I'm sure our client is going to absolutely love this. So the only thing left to do now, guys, is listen to it. Have a listen to the final results of the system. You guys will be able to hear and experience it, but you can never do that in full because YouTube will compress things and all sorts of bits and pieces. But you need to basically come by and listen to something to actually experience what proper Cambridge cardiac treatment is all about. So feel free to come in and see us. But now we're going to jump in the vehicle, then we'll go through our final checks, go through everything, make sure everything is perfect, and then hand over to our client. So let's jump in to the listening part. Not to lose the game. The darkest night is always seen. Wait on the nothing, we're face to face. I've heard about you, you know about me. Already enough not to lose the game. The darkest night. I think it's that clarity now coming from that top end is controlled. Mid-range makes such a difference in this car. I used to dream about money, about a big house, but all I want is you. Crazy to think that this is pretty much the same system that came in. It's controlled, it's balanced. The difference between what me and Rowan sat in the car and listened to when the car first came in with bits hanging off and speakers and no mid-range and stuff like that, it just felt something was missing. And what was really missing was obviously the mid-range, which obviously makes a huge difference, but one of the biggest things was the install. The install was practically missing, and being promised that everything was neat and tidy, cloth tape behind the scenes, even for the radio install. When we showed the client the pictures of the work that was done, we documented the entire process, shared all the bits and pieces as we go. The problem we documented, the fix we also documented, and you've seen in today's video as well the level of detail that our team go to get a car ready for a client, and this is no exception. It's been an absolute honor to work on this vehicle. It's been an honor to redo this install, because it is now an install of someone that can be proud of. When they remove parts of this car, it is something to be proud of. Obviously on this install we have left elements of the original install, like some of the sound deadening work that was done in the doors. This is not all completely redone start to finish. We did leave some elements in to kind of bring costs down, because having to redo something twice costs a lot of money, and it's not something that is nice for anyone. We don't like to see systems like this, and the reason why we're making today's video, same as the Skoda video I recently posted, is the reason for it is not to name names, and we don't name names at all on the channel or whoever did this install. We know who it is, but it's not about naming names. It is about educating people when they are choosing their installer to really do their in-depth research. Go and visit them, whether you come to us, whether you go somewhere else. We are not the cheapest in the country. We do not claim to be, and I don't want to be. Our level of work speaks for itself, and that's why we document things in the videos as we do. But it's about you choosing the correct installer for your budget, but also for how you want your car to sound and be done. Wherever you are in the world, obviously we do international transfer for people that are abroad and want the Cambridge cardiac treatment. Full international transfer is available by multiple ways. So if you are based abroad and you do want the Cambridge cardiac treatment, feel free to reach out and we can help with the logistics of getting the car over to us. We have many clients that do that. But if you are based in the UK, Cambridge is never too far considering the level of work that we do. So we look forward to seeing you guys very soon. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video and hopefully learn a little bit more about choosing the correct installer for how you want your next car. I'll see you on the next one.